Johnny, and welcome to episode 86 of the Travel Like a Boss podcast. I'm here with Kyle Barraclough. He's the founder of Libertad. It's a very cool dress shirt that is made specifically for travelers, and it's on Kickstarter right now. So, Kyle, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks. Good to be here.
Yeah, so we met here in Chiang Mai almost a year ago, I think.
Something like that, yeah.
And you had that idea to make your own garment, your own travel shirt, which was so different than what everyone else here in Chiang Mai was doing.
Right.
I would say everyone here is bootstrapping a small independent business. So either they're trying to build their own dropshipping store, some of them are doing FBA, some people are copywriting, doing these kind of single person small businesses. Mm-hmm. And you had this grand plan, this big business. What made you different? What made you think differently from everyone else?
I think that how this began. It actually the idea came lots of years ago, but building the business started over 2.5 years ago, and I tried a few other things. It was actually, I was already in Chiang Mai for other reasons, and I was unaware of the entrepreneur community that was here. So I tried other things. I had no one to talk to and learn from, and so these things just kind of failed. If I did know these other entrepreneurs, maybe they would have given me this great information and I would be doing something else. But what happened to me was like what happens to everybody, which is you start down a path, you get to some point, and you say, this isn't for me. I don't like it. I thought I did, but it's not what I thought. Or this is a great idea, but I can't monetize it. And I actually do have to pay my bills and, feed myself and stuff like that. So I went through a little bit of one of those career crises, and I really dug down to find out what it was that kind of, floated my boat, so to speak. And I went back to this idea that I had 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I started just testing it out very, very slowly to see if this idea was going to stick, if I had the energy to do it, if I had the desire. And here we are 2.5 years later.
Wow. So how have you been supporting yourself this last 2.5 years?
Actually, just from savings. I haven't been doing anything else. I mean, if I had to do it over again, I might try to do something, maybe even one of the types of businesses that you talked about. But this project's been pretty consuming. Even though it might not take me 8 hours a day to do it, it takes a lot out of you. So
I can imagine, and especially because there's no set, clear path. I would say nowadays there's a lot more people doing Kickstarter campaigns, mm-hmm. But there's no one who specifically has done exactly what you're doing. And I think at the time, at least nobody I personally knew had done big Kickstarter campaigns.
Right.
So and I remember specifically a year ago we were sitting in a coffee shop across from Pun Space, and we were just I think it was like a weekly meetup, digital nomad meetup or something.
Right. And
I had asked, what are you working on? What do you do? And when you explained it, and I was so not ready for that I didn't even know how to respond. I think if I had just met you now, now that I've done a couple different businesses, I've met so many entrepreneurs, I've interviewed so many different people, I would have something kind of intelligent to talk about, or maybe even some advice to give.
Right.
But at the time, I was so clueless. I was like, oh, nice, good luck.
Right.
And I think at that time it was mainly because I didn't have the expertise and I didn't know anyone who succeeded with something like that. Mm-hmm. I would have, I don't want to say had my doubts, but to me it wouldn't. Right. Yeah, it wouldn't have been like, oh yeah, go for it. You should invest the next 2.5 years doing it.
Well, you bring up a good point, and this goes back to what a lot of founders say, which is sort of like, if I knew what this was going to take, when I started, would I have started? Would I have gone down this path? And you didn't know what to expect, but I didn't really know what to expect either. Sure, it was my project, and so I knew what it was and everything, and I liked it. But I ran into that a lot here in Chiang Mai. I was in masterminds, and even after the fabric was real and the shirt was real, a lot of people didn't know really what to say about it. The apparel industry is a very old industry. It has its particulars and some laws and rules you have to sort of play by, but everything that you see in the world that is changing, that's caused this whole digital nomad, location independent movement, all the rules that are breaking, all the rules that don't apply anymore, Some of that is happening in apparel. One of those things is crowdfunding. I was talking to my factory, and I was asking my fabric factory, and I was talking to her about what I'm doing, and she was amazed I had no experience in apparel. But she said, I'm starting to see more of that because we have more information. We're realizing that we can learn as we go. And we can connect with people that have more wisdom than us and kind of guide us, even if that person's in Europe or somewhere else. So there are solutions to problems. So you can actually now more than ever start to go down a path, and with each step you take, just sort of see the next little bit. The path is clear, but you might not be able to see that much further down the road.
I really like that mindset, and I really applaud you and congratulate you for sticking to it and knowing your vision, going out and finding those resources and making it happen. So when I saw your Kickstarter launch about a week ago, somebody had shared on the wall, and I was like, oh, I know this guy, and I've seen his shirts, and at first I didn't know anything about it. I was pretty much just like everyone else who sees it on Facebook through a friend,
right.
And I think the only difference between me and someone else is that I had met you in person. I know you're a good guy, and I was like, okay, let me give this shirt a chance. And I think I looked at the material, I looked at the video you made, and I was like, oh, this looks pretty cool. And I was like, okay, what makes this shirt different than other people? So can you briefly tell us about what the actual shirt is?
Well, first of all, thanks for the Kickstarter pledge. Yeah. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Yeah.
Well, the shirt is different mostly because of the fabric. Mm-hmm. I say that like this is some kind of new fiber, but
first, what is the point of the shirt? Let's talk about that.
Well, that's an excellent place to start, because that's really the point of the shirt is really what's created the difference. Mm-hmm. And this is a shirt for travelers. However you want to define that. We're living this nomadic lifestyle, and so that's how we define it. But there are people that live in some city somewhere, in some suburb, that travel a lot as well. Mm-hmm. Or maybe they don't even go anywhere. They're just on the move every day. And the real question is how, in this way that we live now, this our motion where we're rapidly changing climatic zones, and we're going here and there, our lives are really defined by movement now. If that's how we're living, how can we make a garment that makes that easier, makes that more comfortable? And what are the challenges that are created by this life of movement? Right? So what is cotton not doing? What is polyester not doing? What are their weaknesses? And so I actually didn't begin designing the shirt with merino wool in mind. I was actually thinking to myself, what can be done with other materials and chemical treatments and stuff like that.
Well, before we get to the actual design and the actual fabric, just for anyone who has no clue what we're talking about, Kyle is wearing this awesome looking shirt. It's a very professional looking dress shirt, but instead of being this uncomfortable, stiff shirt that you'll sweat in, that will get wrinkled, it's one specifically designed for people, as Kyle described. It doesn't matter if you're a digital nomad or if you're a business traveler just going from LA to New York or to Paris. It's something that breathes, is comfortable to wear, that you're not gonna sweat in. And it's not.
Well, you will sweat in it.
Okay.
It's just that you won't start to stink. That's the whole thing.
I guess you can't stop someone from sweating, but
right.
You can control what happens.
You can control. Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And great looking shirt as well.
Thank you.
You're talking about the fabric, so it's not cotton. It's not something. I actually at first when I looked at the description, I just assumed it'd be something synthetic. I thought it'd be made out of something like Under Armour would use.
Right.
But when I saw merino wool, that's actually what really caught my eye. So what made you choose that?
Well, like I was saying, going down this path, I wasn't even really aware of merino wool when I started. I just sort of had this idea, well, I'm going to start to try to solve this problem. And really what are the other problems that other people have? And, we accumulate this list of it's too hot, it doesn't look good, or I look like I work in an office, I don't want to look that way. I look messy at the end of a plane ride, I stink, and you start to accumulate these things. And so in my Kickstarter video, I actually mentioned this briefly. I talked to many people, but it was a textile chemical salesman who counts Patagonia as one of his clients because they do sort of environmentally friendly chemicals. He's the one, he's like, listen, you have this list. And he's like, if you really need to tackle all of that stuff, he's like, you really probably need to go and check out merino wool. By this time, I knew what it was. There had been some other companies out there that, like Wool and Prince is this fantastic company that also has a 100% merino wool shirt. And they did a Kickstarter, and I educated myself through that. And then there's some other brands. And merino wool, and I mean, wool in general has been around for centuries. There is a lot of information on it. It's just that now we can make it light enough for a really, for a travel application.
Okay.
So,
I remember when I was, I don't know, I guess more than 10 years ago now, 15 years ago, I worked at Banana Republic in the mall, and we had merino.
You worked at Banana Republic?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right.
I was in college at the time, down in Orange County, California, and we had merino wool sweaters, which I really liked them,
Mm-hmm.
but I've always assumed they were. So first, I actually remember specifically thinking, why is this so comfortable compared to the wool of the wool sweaters I had as a kid,
right?
Which were itchy and just they weren't nice at all. The merino wool sweaters I remember just were so soft and like so luxurious.
Mm-hmm.
They were thin, but I still always associated that with like winter gear. Even though now that I think about it, those sweaters actually weren't that hot. Do you have that problem with using merino wool for your dress shirts?
Well, that is what kind of distinguishes, this kind of shirt, the merino wool. It has natural body temperature regulation properties. It's also smooth enough to wear next to the skin for most people. Old wool is heavy. It's hot. It's itchy. And merino is a breed of sheep that, their wool isn't like that. So it's that raw material from the merino sheep combined with some new technology able to really kind of make some of these garments is really where the difference comes in.
So it's like a specially bred sheep from like
Australia.
Okay.
New Zealand also, yeah. And they're starting to grow them in or raise them rather in Patagonia, Argentina, stuff like that. It's going to be. I mean, people are going to this. People are raising the sheep, and you're going to see a lot more of it.
Okay. And is there a difference between merino wool and cashmere wool?
I'm sure there is. I don't know what it is.
but I never heard of cashmere as a way where people would use it as like in this type of clothing. Like it's not like a sport thing. Right.
Merino has durability.
Mm-hmm.
They've done a lot of studies on it. Certainly, there's a wool promotion agency out of Australia called Woolmark. They do all kinds of stuff where they, you can bend wool a certain amount of times, like, 20,000 times. You can only bend cotton like 1,200 times before it breaks, polyester this many times. They do all of these studies and they show a certain amount of durability and, over other fibers, right?
Okay.
And so that's why they put it in sportswear. And but sportswear also has to be light enough, and this is we'll always with merino we'll come back to like the body temperature regulation and how fine the fiber is, so that you can make a cycling jersey out of it or socks or whatever.
Yeah, it's crazy because I never thought people would have, let's say, merino wool T-shirt, but they're a thing now.
Yeah,
and they're expensive.
Yeah,
is it just? Is the material itself just expensive?
Yeah, everything's kind of expensive. Yeah, I mean, cotton and polyester have gotten so inexpensive; they're so common, but just the raw material of wool and what I have to pay for a meter of my fabric is several times more than I would for cotton or polyester.
Okay.
Yeah,
but. So let's say someone so a traditional dress shirt, what would that normally be made out of?
Mostly cotton.
Okay.
Really nice. I mean, I love cotton too. It feels really great.
So I have a couple cotton dress shirts that I've made here in Chiang Mai.
Right.
And one of the benefits of being here in Thailand is we can go to a tailor. They can make us a custom-made shirt for a tenth of the cost of doing it in New York or in San Francisco. But I never wear those shirts.
Why?
It's because they're hot,
Right. Yeah.
And I would wear it back home. So the last time I wore a dress shirt was when I was back in the U.S. at a wedding. And even then, it probably wasn't that comfortable, but most places are AC'd and it's fine. But if I had something that can breathe, that can wear just kind of day to day, and I wanted to dress up a bit, I would wear this.
Yeah, I think what you're going to find over the cotton is that the merino, you're still going to be, you go out in 100-degree temperature, no matter what you're wearing, you're going to be hot. But what the merino will do, once you go back inside or change environments, it does handle the moisture more efficiently. It will dry more quickly. But from these cotton shirts that when it dries, it doesn't feel the same. It feels maybe a little sticky or clammy. Merino doesn't. It still feels fresh. And let's see what else. Yeah, and you're not going to stink. I mean, that you put on a cotton shirt in the morning and you go out about in Chiang Mai or especially Bangkok and you just do some things that you would normally do. How are you going to look and how are you going to smell by 3 p.m? You're probably not that great.
That's definitely true. The only other garment that I wear that has that kind of that similar properties is ex officio underwear. I first heard of that from Tim Ferriss a few years ago, and I was like, I don't know if I want to spend $22 on a pair of boxers.
They're merino, right?
No, I think they're some kind of synthetic fiber, but I don't know how they made it, but kind of same properties, quick dry and antimicrobial, so they don't smell.
Right.
And since then, I think that was maybe 5 years ago, I have literally threw out every other pair of boxers, and I have a set of just these plain black, ex officio boxers.
Right.
And I've decided it's worth the price. I'm never going to wear anything else.
Well, I think that's really the trend in apparel. I mean, even though that's synthetic and that's, not necessarily the direction my brand is going to go down, this is where consumer tastes are going. And this is where textile science is going. It's how do we serve the customer better? What is the customer up against? And, we have the technology to solve some of these problems. So, yeah, I don't think that we're going to have a lot of, I don't know how long it's going to take, but the transition is going to be made the same transition that you're describing for yourself. And, they have merino wool underwear. So,
So their slogan was, I think it was 7 countries, 2 weeks, 1 pair of underwear. And then the bottom said, parentheses, okay, maybe 2.
Right.
And what I really liked about it is not that I would actually just travel with 1 pair of underwear, because there's not really a reason to, no matter how light you are, you don't need, you don't need to go that minimal.
Right.
But I think people like the idea of that minimality, not needing to have 7 pairs of underwear, 10 pairs of underwear.
Right.
So I can see with your shirt, having the same slogan, 7 countries, 2 weeks, 1 shirt.
Right.
And obviously people don't have to use 1 shirt, but the fact that they can, I think people like that.
Yeah, I think it's a good selling point. You can wear merino for so many days in a row, but it's kind of funny. People in the business, not necessarily me, but like the merino experts and stuff like that, and people that, I guess depending on where they are in their life and how they live it, they don't like the thought of wearing the same shirt every day, because things get dirty. But knowing how it handles and knowing how it performs, they want to make it to 6 o'clock in the evening, or even go from work to dinner or something like that, knowing that they don't smell, that they have fewer wrinkles than their cotton shirt. They look better, they smell better, and that's really where it's at for them. Most of my customers are like that.
Yeah, and just like I guess the weekend warrior for anything, like not everybody that has a 4x4 truck actually goes off-roading on a mountain,
right?
But they like to know that they could if they wanted to.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
So have you tested this where have you hand washed it in a sink or something and then just put it out to dry? How long does it take to dry compared to let's say a cotton dress shirt?
You bring up something that I have intended to do, and I've never gotten around to do it. It would be a really fun experiment to just put the clock on it and figure it out. I can tell you that when you hang dried in the open air, it does not take long at all. Having owned cotton shirts for decades, ever since I was a little kid, those things can take forever. But yeah, absolutely, this dries much, much quicker, and it dries even in a hotel room. It dries pretty darn quick, even not in the open air. So, and plus, it's if you are in an enclosed space, The way this handles the moisture, you're not going to get any kind of funny smells coming off of it because it was wet too long or anything like that.
That's actually a really great point too, because a lot of times when you're traveling, like for example, when we went to last summer, I went to Prague. It was in Czech Republic, and it was just a 2-week trip, and I didn't do laundry in Berlin or in Vienna because I figured, okay, when we get to Prague, we'll have a few days, let's do laundry there. And the hotel wanted to charge, I think it was like $8 per item or something.
Wow.
Something ridiculous.
Right.
My buddy Anton, he paid it because he was like, oh, I can't have dirty clothes.
Right.
So his bill came out to like over $100 for laundry.
Wow.
It was insane.
Wow.
And I just refused to pay it. I was like, even if I'm like starting to make some more money online now, I just refuse to do that because I'd almost rather throw away all the clothes and just buy new stuff if I had to pay, $8 to $10 per item.
Right.
So I ended up hand washing everything in my bathtub. I was like,
I don't blame you.
Yeah, and then I just hung it up, and all the cotton stuff took forever to dry. And then thinking about it, if I had any less time in that hotel room, if I didn't have the AC on drying it, and I had to pack it away like semi-moist, I would have completely ruined it.
Yeah, it would have been stinky and smelly and made your whole bag smell for sure.
Yeah. So who actually needs to travel with a dress shirt? All right, because I think part of being, let's say, a digital nomad, is, or being a traveler in general, we think, okay, we can just go in singlets, these tank tops,
right,
flip flops and shorts,
right.
But I don't know if it's because I'm starting to get older now. I'm 34, and there's a part of me now where I don't want to wear a tank top. Especially if I'm in a city, if I'm going out to dinner.
Right.
And how old are you, Kyle?
I'm pushing 45.
Okay, nice.
A couple months, yeah.
So I think there's a generation of people in their mid to late 30s or 40s that are kind of living this lifestyle now.
Right.
And in my mind, this is a big part of your market.
Absolutely. And I think really what it is it comes down to what kind of experience do you want to have on a daily basis, or, you dress according to the experience you want. If you're going out on a date, you're going to dress a certain way to have the experience that you want. And one of the things I think most people find out, and even some of the younger guys are finding this out too. They come out here and we all start out the same way. We take off our shoes, we start to wear flip-flops everywhere, singlets, shorts, and the whole thing. And at some point, if you are really thinking about how you're living, you find out you're sort of missing out on all of this other stuff. And you're not a tourist. As a digital nomad, location independent, you're not a tourist. And you're like, I want to live a normal life. I want to go to a nice restaurant. I want to do this and I want to do this. Or, I would really like to meet some local people. And once you start to have, some of these things start to enter your head, you're like, well, I can't look like this everywhere I go then. That's the first thing that you come across. And, this is something that when I was a backpacker 10 years ago, this is when I first got the idea. For my first 3 months around Thailand and Australia and stuff like that, I was in flip-flops and singlets everywhere I went. And then I went to Myanmar and everything changed. Things aren't that way over there. The experience, the mood, the level of my connection with the other people, I forever changed. After that, it was mostly long pants. I'm like, where else? It's like, I can't wear those cotton shirts either, but there was nothing to buy. But I think it's just an evolution. There's an age component, but it's also, this lifestyle it's your life. You're not a tourist. And so you do want to have a certain level of experience.
I definitely agree. And I have something kind of embarrassing to admit.
All right, let's have it.
The first 2 years that I was living in Thailand, I wore Crocs. And I didn't care. It was the fact that I was finally in a place where it didn't matter that much. Thinking back, it was still a huge social faux pas. I'm sure
right.
a lot of people, the girls hated it. A lot of people didn't like it.
Right.
But the fact was, I was like, you know what? I'm free, I'm traveling, I'm living on this island, it's convenient, they're super comfortable, and I was like, this isn't something I could do back home. I would never be caught dead wearing Crocs.
Right.
And the fact that I was able to, I really enjoyed it. Now, I would never wear a pair of Crocs again. But at the same time, exactly what you said, our being here for, I would say, over, let's say, a year, especially being a little bit more mature, a little bit older, we start thinking differently. Where before, I didn't mind living in a bamboo hut, and I did for years. I was like, all I need is a bed to sleep in. If I have a mosquito net and a bed to sleep in, I'm okay. I can watch a movie on my laptop, I'm fine. Now I live in a normal apartment. We're sitting here, I have a kitchen, I have a washing machine, I have a couch and a TV, and I could not imagine myself, living like a backpacker again.
Right.
And I think this is like the next level of evolution for digital nomads or entrepreneurs, or even people that just want to live abroad,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. This evolution is the right word. And there's that evolution, but there's also the evolution that you've experienced by owning cotton shirts. Mm-hmm. That was an evolution. And now you're ready to move on to the next thing. So a lot of it just has to do with your experience. You had the bamboo hut days. Now they're over. Now you want something else in life. And things just sort of tend to evolve in this direction. As you become a more refined human being, you want to look and feel the part.
I like it. So I wanted to ask you about the actual process of going from having this idea to sourcing it and then putting it on a Kickstarter.
Okay. I'll try to say this succinctly. So, the first step, and I think this is really critical, and this is, I think, a key difference to what I did compared to somebody that might choose a different business, a digital business, or something like that, which is, for me, identifying the problem and that kind of revealing the solution. I knew immediately I needed expert help.
Okay.
So instead of trying to source the product, I immediately tried to source the individual that would sort of make all of this that was in my head, make it real. So that took some real time. It took some money, but without this person, without having found this person, we would not be here today. I would be on to something else. Okay.
So who is this person and how did you find them?
Well, I'm not going to say his name because the name probably cost me $10,000 all told. And he's worth $10 million.
Nice.
But this kind of goes back to some of the skills that I developed in corporate sales back in the US, which is you get on the phone, you get on the internet, and you just start hunting. You're a little bit like a detective. Mm-hmm. You're like, okay, well, here's the wool industry. Here are the players in the wool industry. And you start calling. Mm-hmm. And you start, there's a dead end here and here and here. And then you find the one place that doesn't dead end. And eventually, I got the name.
Okay.
And he didn't charge me right at first. He was just kind of checking me out. I was checking him out. He would help me. And at some point, he's like, I feel like this business has potential. So congratulations, I'm going to start charging you.
That's a good problem to have, right?
Yeah.
So you said, you spent roughly $10,000 to find that name. What were some of those costs that you spent the money on?
Most of it was time. Okay. Just in living my life and not doing anything else. That's why I say it's a $10,000 name, because if I was if there was an entrepreneur here saying I want to make a merino clothing line, I could give them the name that would literally save them that amount of money.
That makes sense. So after he started charging you, what are the things that he was actually helping you with?
Well, I described what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And he's the kind of person that wanted to make what I wanted real. He certainly had his own opinions and things like that, but I'm the one that had defined the solution and the problem. And so together, we eventually made our way to, I found an R&D partner, a factory. And this is not easy to do either. People that are willing to do low volume R&D with you, that are interested in it themselves. And so when you engage those kinds of people just me on my own, they have a million questions in their head because they know just from talking to me, they might like the idea, but they know instantly I know nothing about their world. And they get the impression like this is going to be a headache. This is going to be a nightmare. But the second I got my wool guy on the phone with them, they felt totally comfortable and things started, going 100 miles an hour down the right path.
That absolutely makes sense.
Yeah.
I can see why that works.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they respected the fact this is my company, that I'm the one paying for it, that I'm the owner of the vision, and they all are trying to serve the vision, and they do respect the fact that I'm trying to keep everybody on track. But when it comes down to the nuts and bolts, to have him to talk to, that made an enormous amount of difference.
That makes sense. And it kind of reminds me of, like, let's say you had a startup and you're trying to find, seed funding or something. If you don't have a technical co-founder,
right,
and you're trying to talk to someone who's like, how are you actually going to build this? And you had no idea, they're probably not going to want to talk to you. But if you have someone that can take care of that part of it, they're like, okay, well, this person's smart enough to have this other person, so I'll give them a shot.
Right, without a doubt.
Okay.
That is exactly where it's coming from, and I completely see an investor's point of view saying, if you're a solo entrepreneur, you don't have a technical co-founder, I can't talk to you. There's very good reason behind that.
That makes sense. So just out of curiosity, did you just pay him like an upfront fee or like per hour, or is it a revenue share?
Monthly retainer. Yep. In the future, I don't know. We haven't had that conversation, but I would actually love for him to be part of the company. I mean, anything he wants, I would give him because I'd lock him down. But he probably knows that.
I like it. Yeah. It actually kind of reminds me of a lot of episodes on Shark Tank. Did you ever watch that?
I've seen it a few times. Yeah, I know what it's about.
Fantastic show. For anyone who's listening who has not seen Shark Tank, it is a must-watch TV show. You'll learn so much, not only about what to do in business, but more what not to do. I think if you see enough episodes, you start seeing that people get too attached to their business, and they can't step back from it and see it from an investor's point of view. And one of the things that comes up really often is the scenario where the product of the company is actually not worth anything yet. It's a great idea, but it's not actually a real company yet. It's not making sales or profit yet. And they're asking for, $200,000 for 20%, which is, almost $1 million. And in reality, what most people should be asking for is say, I want to give you 51% of my company, just run with it,
right.
Or I want to be partners with you. I want your knowledge and your expertise. Here's 50% of the company, for not that much money, just because you can help me with your expertise, grow it from just an idea to a multi-million-dollar company.
Right. And I'm actually facing that right now. For the last week, I have been burning the midnight oil, writing a business plan. With the performance of my Kickstarter now, I've kind of validated the idea, which is probably the greatest strength of crowdfunding. Mm-hmm. People that are willing to put down that much money for a product they're not going to get for 6 months, that they've never seen before, they've never touched, really says something. And I'm engaging these investors, and there are these things. There are the Shark Tank investors, and they have their people behind them, and so they can say, I want that 50% of the company, and they can really shock the entrepreneur and scare them. And you're probably right that the investor, they should probably just go with the investor. These investors are probably not in the business of screwing them over, which is what it feels like, But one of the advantages of me having taken so long in developing this is I know I need people to help me. Mm-hmm. I want it. A lot of those people on Shark Tank, I'm not sure if they've really reached that point yet. Certainly they're there seeking investment, but they still think they can do it all on their own.
Mm-hmm. I actually think it's usually one of the extremes. Either exactly what you said, where they just don't know that yet, or the people who have done it for so long. Let's say they've invested 5 years, or 7 years, and they mortgaged their house, and now they're so invested in it that they're too close to it as well.
Yeah, that can happen. Sure. Yeah.
So that is the TV show recommendation of the week. So Kickstarter, how did you know that you wanted to get on that right away, or how did that come up?
Not right away. Way back in the early days, I thought it'd really be great to find a partner and an investor. But I mean, when you just have an idea, I mean, people are like, that's cool, but they don't really care. And I started, getting on a weekly webinar with some angel investors out of Los Angeles and kind of seeing how they treated the other entrepreneurs. And I thought, it's really going to be an uphill climb to just get investment for something that I haven't even created yet. And so I started to slowly, as I went through this creation process, crowdfunding began to be more of the way to go. And I think that it's taken me a very long time to get here. It's been exhausting. But to now having validated idea, I'm in a much better position to attract investment. So if that comes through, it's going to definitely be worth it.
Nice. So with your campaign, what was the goal for your Kickstarter campaign?
50,000.
And how'd you get that number?
Well, they do recommend, they say, set the number as low as you can so you can get the 100% mark as fast as you can. I see that from a marketing standpoint, but I was really uncomfortable with it because who knows how you're going to perform on crowdfunding, on Kickstarter. You can have a really responsive email list, but those people, when it comes time to put money where their mouth is, might not show up. So I didn't want to hit like 100% of $30,000 and have a campaign worth 40 and not have enough money to do this project.
So 2 questions. First, did you have an email list already? How did you build that?
I had about 800 names. I would have liked more. But the 800 names I had all came from fairly targeted sources. I did a lot of Instagram stuff, targeting people that, followed certain companies, especially athletic companies that produce merino wool. Those were the best. And so I felt like I had really quality emails. And there was some Facebook list building, but that's actually very, very expensive. You do get quality people on there, but Facebook is more for like, do you have something cheap I can buy now?
Yeah.
Not can I put my name on an email list and buy something later that I'll actually get in my hands even more later.
Okay.
So
that definitely makes sense.
Yeah.
And you said that $40,000 would not have been enough to make this production run. What was your minimum that you had to hit?
Pretty much around $50,000 I can do something. I'm going to be more comfortable at 80. A little more comfortable at 100, 120 and stuff like that, then, but this is a very cash intensive business and factory minimums really come into play. So the factory, if they want to go below their normal minimum, is going to charge me a surcharge, but it's still possible to produce. So, we're going to be okay. But I did not want to put some kind of arbitrary goal. I thought long and hard about just doing 30,000, which a lot of people do, but I'm like, I don't know. I really personally, I just felt more comfortable being at the 50,000 level.
I'm really glad that you did that because, I think I see both sides having a point, where you just want to get that goal, because with Kickstarter, a lot of people don't realize if you don't make that goal, then you get nothing.
Right.
And all that money is just instantly refunded.
Right.
So it's been how many days now since you've launched?
I think we're about halfway through. We're about 15 days or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a 30-day. So all Kickstarter campaigns are 30 days.
I think you can go anywhere between like 15 and 60 days or something like that.
Okay. And so what made you choose 30 days?
It seemed to be the most common. I didn't want to be at this for forever. I didn't want to do it for 60 days, and I wanted to. There's time schedules with the factory that come into play, and all those kinds of things. So if this was ending sometime in October, then that kind of puts me in a bad position for production with the factory and their schedule. Okay.
And in retrospect, would you have started this Kickstarter earlier, a month earlier, maybe?
Listen, I would have loved to have done this a year ago, but when you are trying to build a list, because here's the thing with crowdfunding now, we're past the stage where this stuff is a gimmick and a novelty, where everybody rushes in and will just back anything just to try it. We're at the point now where you have to prove yourself. We're at the point now where you need to come to Kickstarter with a list. And, back in the day, your list didn't need to be that big. But if you were a cool project, you could get a lot of notoriety. I have this PR company working for me now, and they have to work really hard to, get you into some of these online journals and, and stuff like that, because there is so much crowdfunding out there now. It's just not news. So it's like, what is news? So this affects list building, this affects PR, and this takes time, and that's what's brought us to this particular date. But yeah, I would have loved to have done this a year ago.
Okay, I like it. So I remember I was actually one of the first backers of this, just because, and that's how things go viral. I think somebody that you knew personally shared it, backed it. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, okay, I'll back this.
I appreciate that.
You're very welcome. And to me, it was... So I think a lot of people, they don't back things because in their mind there's a risk. And the risks that they have in their mind is it ever going to get funded? Is it ever going to get shipped? And then by the time it does, will they still want it? In my mind, the reason why I no longer have that risk or that mentality is... I'm finding at a point where I can actually, the $100 is not going to kill my bank anymore. It's not going to kill my budget anymore. So I'm very grateful for that. But then secondly, with Kickstarter, I realized, well, if it doesn't get funded, my card doesn't get charged, so it's not a big deal.
Right. Yeah. You're protected.
And it's one of those things where I'm like, well, this is something that, I would like to get it, in the next couple of months. But if it doesn't happen, if it gets delayed, it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
What is your actual target date to have this stuff ready?
March.
Okay.
And that when I talk about the factory schedule and stuff, we're really affected by the big holiday in China. We the last week of January, everybody takes about a week off, except the garment workers who are from the countryside, who will take a month off. So. This is something that everybody that manufactures in China has to deal with, unless their factory is mostly worked by the city folks. But the country folks, they all go home for a month, and that's who pretty much runs the garment industry, garment manufacturing. Okay,
that makes sense. And for those who aren't familiar with culture in China, a lot of people, they move to big cities like Beijing or whatever, Shanghai or something, and they live there the whole year. They basically work 7 days a week, and then they never see their family. They never take vacation. So then they want to take a long holiday over Chinese New Year.
Right.
And I made the mistake of going to Shanghai for Chinese New Year 2 years ago, thinking, oh, it'd be so fun. It'd be like a celebration. It was completely dead. There's nobody there. It looked like I Am Legend.
Right.
And the worst thing is, the people that were there were so angry that they were there and not at home.
Right.
So all the taxi drivers, all the restaurant staff was just pissed,
Yeah.
And it gave me such a bad taste for China as a whole. I'm sure if I was at the countryside, in a smaller town, maybe a different time of the year, I would have loved it. But, because I was there at that time in this big city where everybody was angry, I hated China, and I'm not going to go back.
Really? You're not going to give it another
try? Not going to go back. Done.
Okay.
Done with China. So when I backed your project, the reason why I did it is, in my mind, I'm like, you know what? Good people and good projects, good products should be shared, should be supported. But I didn't want to just plug it on my wall and say, oh, check out the shirt. I feel like if it's something that is worth recommending, it's worth investing in yourself. And
Thank you.
And I really believe that, if you're going to make a recommendation, make an earnest recommendation. Recommend something that you've used, or, you put your money where your mouth is. And people listen to that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And, when I look at my Kickstarter analytics, the traffic that has come from Facebook sharing is really significant. So, I have a lot of people to extend my gratitude towards, for sure. People like yourself and other people that have been... Yeah, the response on Facebook was much bigger than I thought it was going to be.
What did you think, the highest traffic source was going to be? And what were the surprises like Facebook?
Well, that's a good question. I thought it was going to be my list. My list did okay. My list did good for me the first day. But after that, it was a lot of the social sharing. I was not counting on Kickstarter so much because, kind of what I was saying earlier, the shine has worn off of crowdfunding as a whole. But Kickstarter actually is almost 30%. Kickstarter traffic is almost 30% of my pledges. So really surprised by that. I was expecting to shoulder the entire thing.
Do you think that it was because of your list that people started sharing on Facebook, and then maybe because of Facebook that, as there's more backers, as there's more money on there, it's almost like a social proof where Kickstarter started ranking it higher in their own organic features? Or do you know how that works?
I think all of that comes into play. It's hard to say, it's hard to pinpoint any single thing, but definitely in the early days, I got a premier placement on Kickstarter because of the strong start. But yeah, I think the social sharing had a huge impact on that.
Okay. And did you pay for any Facebook ads once it was launched to promote it more?
A little bit. I was I was boosting posts and things like that. There was a little bit of a return. It can be a little bit hard to track in Kickstarter, but I think I'm starting actually a paid campaign tomorrow through a company that I found. I have a lot of confidence in them, but they're going to do a test, and they're like, we should know within a day, maybe even less than a day if it works. And a lot of that is going to be Facebook ads, and they are extremely confident. So I don't know. I'm crossing my fingers. Maybe we'll have to do a call-in addendum to tell you how it went after a couple of days or something.
Yeah, definitely be curious with that. I can at least put it to the show notes.
But I'll say the paid Facebook for list building was good but expensive, very expensive.
Do you think you've gotten a positive return from that, or at least your money back from that?
I think so, because that's really what compiled a lot of my list. About half my list was, I want to say about a third of my list came from Facebook, paid Facebook ads, and they got on my early bird discount list and that sort of thing, and we targeted the right people. But after that, there's been a drop off, and I think other things have kind of carried it.
So those Facebook ads, what was on that? Because people obviously didn't know what the shirt was yet; it wasn't out yet.
Right.
What was on that ad?
Well, I specifically focused on people that were likely to know about merino, because one of the things I found out is that it has a rabid global fan base. People that, like yourself, once you encounter it, once you have a garment and you're familiar with it, it's just like with you in the ex officio underwear, you're like, this is what I'm doing from now on. So I targeted a lot of athletes that are cyclists, where merino, it has a really fantastic reputation, rabid following. So the ads always had the word merino, and they're like nice travel clothing, 100% merino, style plus performance. I tested out different photos. Without fail, it was always the red shirt that performed the best. And there was just some sort of, A/B testing like that, but it always heavily pushed the word merino.
That definitely makes sense, and you're very lucky that merino isn't like a trademarked word.
Yeah,
not like
exactly.
So I think that's a fantastic idea. I'm really glad that you did that. Second, I was also very, very excited a few days ago when I saw that you guys had made your pledge, the $50,000.
Did it? Yeah.
How did that feel when that hit?
Good, really good. It was, you brought up, we talked about 30,000 earlier. I would have hit it like 100% like in the first 2 or 3 days if I was at 30,000. But it took a little bit longer to get to that 50,000, but I felt like it was achieving a real goal. And I felt like at that point this could be a real company, that we're going to have real cash to pay real bills, to make real shirts. And so, yeah, it felt pretty good.
I like it. So right now, as we're recording this, there's 332 backers, and the total pledge is $55,000, $55,651 with 15 days to go. This episode, I'm going to try to put it out by tomorrow, and hopefully some of you can check out the Kickstarter and support the shirt. Especially if you're going to be traveling, which I'm sure 100% of you are, and you want to be able to look nice when you travel. And honestly, even if I lived back in LA and I never went anywhere but Vegas, I would still get the shirt because I wouldn't want to go to a nightclub and smell. I think that's the biggest turnoff to a woman.
Yeah, travel is a lot of things. And you know what? Travel is about going to nightclubs. Mm-hmm. You know, travel is about going from LA to Vegas. Travel is about going from LA to Hong Kong or Tokyo. It's all of those things.
So absolutely. So if you guys want to find the shirt, what's the easiest way for them to find the campaign?
I think that they can go to Kickstarter, and if they just want to do a keyword, just keyword Libertad, Libertad. It's the Spanish word for liberty. You can also go to libertadapparel.com and link to it there. Find us on Facebook, or Instagram. Pretty much everything has the link now.
Okay, I like it. So definitely, if you guys haven't used Kickstarter, it's a very cool platform. I actually just got my first ever Kickstarter item.
What was it?
It was Exploding Kittens, the board game.
I've heard about that. I haven't seen that. I've heard about it, though.
And I remember I ordered it like at least 6 months ago. It was a long time ago.
Right.
And the funny thing is, I think the most people that ordered it was because of the artist. He was the guy from the Oatmeal.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've never heard of him. I don't know, where I've been hiding, maybe under a rock, but I've just never heard of the Oatmeal guy. I think I've seen his drawings somewhere, but I didn't know who he was. I never read any of his comics. I didn't realize he has a marathon.
Really?
I didn't know anything.
I'm going to have to check that out myself. It's interesting.
Yeah, and actually the box is right behind you if you want to take a look at it. It's under the TV. But it's the thing about it was I just saw so many other people supporting it. I watched the video, and the reason why I liked it was I was like, oh, this would be an easy travel game. It's lightweight. It's something that, the claim to it was you can learn how to play in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, let me just buy it. And I almost completely forgot about it. And when it finally, I got an email saying your order is ready to ship, confirm the address you want it. It was perfect because I think 6 months ago I had put another random address. I didn't know I was going to be in Thailand. And it was pretty easy to change. I was like, okay, well, now I'm going to be here. So I had it sent here.
And this is on Kickstarter.
On Kickstarter.
Very simple.
Super simple.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I had it sent to my apartment here in Chiang Mai, Thailand, of all places. And it arrived, no duty fees, no custom fees.
Nice.
Arrived, package was perfect. So it made me kind of a big believer thinking, okay, you know what? Now I'm not so scared to order stuff online.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. There are a few, stories of things happening out there, but, this is crowdfunding. You are giving money to any kind of product to be created, and, it might take 6 months to make, so like we make our fabric. Our fabric you can't buy anywhere else, and that alone takes 3 months. So, but you're getting something special. You're getting something unique. And so, yeah, I hope there's a lot of people out there like you that, want something different, want something new, and are willing to kind of wait for it.
Yeah, and, the thing is, it's one of those things where it'll be worth the wait. It's one of those things where most people don't have the mindset to pre-order something and, think that far ahead.
Right.
Most people want something right now. And the one thing that drives me kind of crazy is every single year when the iPhone comes out, people wait in line.
Just go the next day, right?
Well, no, not even that. Okay, well, sometimes it sells out sometimes. So you kind of have to get it that day. And I've never bought a new iPhone until last year just because I was never able to afford it.
Right.
I didn't even have a smartphone until literally 3 years ago. And it was a second-hand iPhone my sister gave me. So she handed down this 3S to me or something. Mm-hmm. And last year was the first time I ever bought a new iPhone. And I just knew, I'm like, okay, you know what? It's time. I've been working hard. I want to buy an iPhone.
Yeah.
And I watched the announcement video, and they said, oh yeah, just pre-order it this week and it'll be delivered the following, on the day it comes out.
Oh, I see.
And I went on, I pre-ordered it. I got it the very, I got it sent to my friend's house in the U.S. the very day it came out.
That's smart. That's a smart move by Apple to do that.
Yeah. And the thing is, then I also saw the news where people were camping out since 4 a.m., waiting in this line and lines around the block. And I'm thinking, these people, do they not know they wanted this phone? Why didn't they just pre-order a week ago and they would have had it and they never would have had to wait?
Well, I've had a couple emails of people like, I'm definitely going to buy this shirt when it becomes available. Well, that means that, and this is online, that means that you're going to wait even longer, because you won't get it first. And then you're going to pay 30-40% more. You're going to pay more and actually wait longer if you wait until I'm selling these online.
And you're not supporting the cause, the movement.
Yeah. So,
and to me, I think that's actually a core of it, where people, this is kind of one thing that holds people back in life, is not having that abundance mentality, where in your mind you're like, well, if I honestly feel it's very selfish of people to say, you know what, I don't want to commit to anything until I can get the instant gratification. It's almost the same as, let's say, someone not making definite plans, and just saying, oh yeah, let's hang out next week, but not committing to a day.
Right.
And it's because in their mind they're thinking, well, what if something better comes up?
Yeah.
Or what if I'm not in the mood for it at that time?
Yeah.
They don't commit to it.
Yeah.
But just like, pre-ordering something that you want, especially when that money that you pre-order with can help grow the brand and make it better for everyone. It's one of those things where, that to me is a very abundant mentality, saying, what, I want to support this because I believe in it. I want to help make it grow.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and I'll certainly appreciate anybody else that kind of is of that same point of view. That would be fantastic.
So if you want to order it, go to Kickstarter, search for Libertad Apparel. It's Libertad, and it'll pop up. You can watch the video. It's a very cool video that was shot. Was it here in Chiang Mai?
A little bit. Most of it was in Bangkok, though.
Okay. Very cool. And you can see the shirt. You can see, lots of testimonies of people talking about it. There's different rewards. So right now you can still get the... Your audience might be interested in... I'm giving away the attendance to this really great summit that's going to have speakers that have really impacted my life and have a lot to do with entrepreneurship. You have people on there like Peter Shankman and Chris Ducker, and you start to go down the line, people that like Derek Coburn. People might have heard of his book, Networking is Not Working, but amazing information, amazing opportunity to see these people speak live from the comfort of your own apartment on your computer, and get some kind of exclusive info. So normally, you'd have to pay for that, and we're going to be selling tickets to it after the Kickstarter is over. But the tickets are actually going to be more expensive than the shirt. Okay, wow.
So might as well buy the shirt.
So people get that for free with the shirt?
Free with the shirt. Yeah, I think I've got about 8 speakers on there. So
yeah, that's really cool. So is this also going to be a live event, or is it?
It's a virtual. It's live and it's virtual. I mean, if you can't make it, there will be a recording. But not everybody's on the same day. Everybody's going to have a different day. So you're not going to be spending all day in your apartment watching, speaker after speaker on the screen. We're going to space them out. Okay,
and it's called the Level 8 Summit,
right?
Transformational Summit,
right?
So I think that's a very cool bonus. I think
it's my attempt at doing some branding to kind of say this is what the shirt is about. This is about the lifestyle. This is about really changing the path that you're going down wherever you are right now, and sort of making transitions into something better for you.
I think that's very cool, because even if someone's not already a location independent entrepreneur or not already a digital nomad, that's going to help them, get them inspired, get them started with it. So
that's my attempt anyway.
I like that. Okay, so that's a nice free gift. I actually didn't even think about that, because when I ordered it, I didn't even scroll down. I just clicked it.
Well, this is the funny thing. This is kind of how it is on Kickstarter now and on Indiegogo, is that the gifts often don't mean anything anymore. It used to be partly about the gifts, but I'm trying to brand myself. I'm trying to say, I'm going to give you something real that you can use. I'm not going to give you something that's just sort of related to the shirt, like some kind of, I don't know what it would be, extra set of buttons maybe, I don't know. But I wanted to give something more meaningful, something that actually could affect your life. Because you watch my video, it really is about how my life just sort of came to be, how location independent and really taking some major risks, which this business is. And these people give the information on how to do that and be effective in doing it.
I like it. And again, I want to say, big congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm so glad that, the guy I met in the coffee shop a year and a half or 2 years ago, with this idea that
stuck with it.
I honestly, if this didn't happen, I would have just assumed you didn't stick with it, because most people don't.
Right.
Most people would have given up a year ago every time there was a different hurdle.
Right.
And now that you've stuck with it, even though, $55,000 sounds like a lot. That's years and years of work, and that money's going to go into manufacturing the shirts.
That's right, every last dime.
So originally I actually thought, well, you know what? You've hit the goal. Why are you even still promoting it? But it's because you want to be able to not just have a small run of this. You want to grow this into a real business.
Absolutely, yeah. We got to be able to buy some extra shirts doing this and then sell them, and fund the next phase.
I like it. So if you guys are interested in looking good, smelling good, and feeling good while traveling, go on Kickstarter, support the shirt. Kyle, thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
If someone wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to get in touch or follow your stuff?
They can message me via the website, via Instagram, via Kickstarter. Right now, all messages, all emails are coming to me, info@libertadapparel.com, or through my contact page, whatever.
Okay.
It all comes to me.
Awesome. Everyone, thanks so much for listening. Big shout out to everyone who's been leaving 5-star reviews on iTunes. I haven't checked it in a while, and I was blown away about how many people are taking the time, because I know it's such a clunky platform to go. You have to open the actual iTunes app and then click on reviews and ratings, search for the podcast, click 8 things, but then when you get to it, you can leave a review to support the show, to spread it out. And I just discovered that on your iPhone, if you search for Travel Like a Boss podcast, click on reviews, you can actually write a review on your iPhone. So thank you for everyone who's taking the time to do that. And if you haven't already, I really appreciate it if you do. Kyle, thanks so much for being on the show. And everybody,
Great
I will
to be here.
see you next week. Thank you for listening to the Travel Like a Boss podcast. If you want to hear more, including the bonus How to Choose the Perfect Niche episode, join our mailing list at travellikeabosspodcast.com. See you next week, and remember, if you want to travel like a boss, you need to be your own boss. So start your online business today and start living the lifestyle you've always dreamed of.